Somos almas hambrientas buscando un espacio. Desplieguen sus alas, mis calos y calas. Esperarte, imposible no amarte. Imposible no amarte. Hi, brothers and sisters. Here I am again, Sterarte, to read to you again another part from Marilyn Monroe's Her Own Words by the author Gus Louis Terres. And now, the moment as a model. Marilyn first became a popular model in 1942. That company not only made planes, it made parachutes. For a while I inspected parachutes. Then they quit letting us girls do that. They had the parachutes inspected on the outside, but I don't think it was because of my inspecting. Then I was in the dope rooms spraying dope on fuselages. Dope is liquid stuff like banana, oil, and glue mixed. I was out on sick leave for a few days, and when I came back, the army photographers from the Hard Road Studios, where they had the army photographing headquarters, were around taking photographs and snapping and shooting while I was doing those shifts. The army guys saw me and asked, "Where have you been?" "I've been on sick leave," I said. "Come outside," they told me. "We're going to take your picture." "I can't," I said. "The other ladies here in the dope room will give me trouble if I stop doing what I'm doing and go out with you." That didn't discourage those army photographers. They got a special permission for me to go outside for Mr. Husis, the president of the plant. For a while they posed to me rolling sheaves. Then they asked me, "Don't you have a sweater?" "Yes," I told them. "It so happens that I brought one with me. It is in my locker." After that I rolled sheets around in a sweater. A photographer kept telling me, "You should be a model," but I thought he was flirting. Several weeks later, he brought the colored shirts he'd taken off me, and he said the Eastman Cotton Company had asked him, "Who's your model, for goodness sake?" So I began to think that maybe he wasn't kidding about how I ought to be a model. Then I found that a girl could make $5 an hour modeling, which was different from working 10 hours a day for the kind of money I'd been making at the plane plant. And it was a long way from the orphanage, when I'd been paid 5 cents a week for working in the dining room or 10 cents a month for working in the pantry. And out of those big sums, a penny every Sunday had to go into the church collection. I never could figure why they took a penny from an orphan for that. There was still a lot of sex. The guys sort of expected it as a part of the job, but now instead of paying me, they take my picture. And I liked that better. I loved to post. And I was amazed how the pictures usually made me look better than I was in real life. I wore a certain red dress to a party at the Beverly Hills Hotel. It was a beautiful dress. It cost a fortune. I got it at Anne Magnet's. It was a copy of a French original, but one lady columnist wrote that I was cheap and vulgar in it, and I would have looked better in a potato sack. So somebody in studio publicity asked, "So okay, why don't we shoot all Marilyn in a potato sack?" That was fine with me, as long as they let me wear long dangling earrings and a bracelet 4 inches wide. I don't know about the more than 400 newspapers, but I do know that shot was printed all over the country. As a result, a potato company in Twin Falls, Idaho, sent me a sack of potatoes. There was a potato shortage on them, and the boys in the publicity stole them all. I never saw one. It just goes to show why I always ask, can you trust a publicity man or can't you? When the studio first heard about the calendar, everybody there was in a frenzy. They telephoned me on the set where I was working in a quickie called "Don't Bother to Knock." The person who called asked me, What's all this about a calendar of you in the nude? Did you do it? Yes, I said. Is there anything wrong with that? So that found out it's me on the calendar. Well, what do you know? Found out. He almost screamed. There, there you are, all of you in full color. Then he must have gotten mixed up For the first he said, just deny everything. Then he said, don't say anything, I'll be right down. I was working on the Fox Western Avenue lot when this worried man came tearing in, wringing his hand. He took me into my dressing room to talk about the dreadful thing I'd done in posing for such a photograph. I could think of nothing else to say, so I said apologetically, I thought the lining the photographers used would disguise me. I thought the man would have a stroke when I said that. What had happened was that I was behind in my rent at the Hollywood Studio Club, where girls live who hope to crash the movies. You're only supposed to get 1 week behind in your rent at the club, but they must have felt sorry for me because they'd given me 3 warnings. A lot of photographers had asked me to pose in the nude, but I always said no. I was getting $5 an hour for plain modeling, but the price for new modeling was $50 an hour. So I called Tom Keeley, a photographer I knew, and said, they're kicking me out of here. How soon can we do it? He said, we could do it tomorrow. I didn't even have to get dressed, so it didn't take long. I meant it takes longer to get dressed than it does to get undressed. I asked Tom, please don't have anyone else there except your wife, Natalie. He said, okay. He only made 2 poses. There was a shot of me sitting up and a shot of me lying down. I think the one of me lying down is the best. Just before I went back to Fox to work in Don't Bother to Knock, I'd been an RKO on a loan out working in a picture called Clashed by Night. While I was an RKO, mysterious people kept calling up Jerry Wald, who was in charge of production there, and trying to blackmail him by saying they were going to break a story about me having posed in the new for a calendar, and that news like that would put the keys of death on Clash by Night if Mr. Wald didn't do thus and so for them. I'm saving a copy of it for my grandchildren. There's a place in Los Angeles which even reproduces a brass or panties, but I have only autographed a few copies of it, mostly for sick people, and I signed one for the cameraman on the picture in which I was working when the calendar story broke. On one I wrote, this may not be my best angle, and another I wrote, do you like me better with long hair? In reply to the question of whether she wanted to be photographed as the girl next door, the whole thing is too ridiculous. I let any magazine in to photograph the little I do around the house. They wouldn't be interested, but I can assure you that I'm not baking cakes. First, I was shown an album with the most beautiful pictures I'd ever seen of people he had photographed. I said, they're so beautiful. We took them? Who took them? There was a young man standing there the whole time. I said, I want him to photograph me. I said I had a heavy schedule, but that I posed all night. I say, where is he? It was the young man standing there. I say, he's a kid. He's 32, but I think he looks like 19. I'd like him to always photograph me. I've been photographed a lot, but with Milton Green, I discovered a new aspect, new hope. I never really liked the way I was photographed until I saw Milton's pictures. Milton has a gift. He's not only a photographer, he's really an artist. Even with fashion, which usually is boring, he can do something so beautiful. I work with other good photographers, but he's a great artist. He's very original. People are going to talk about him a lot. One of the things that makes him such an artist is his sensitivity, his sense of introspection. It was the first time I didn't have to pose. He gave me time to think, but his camera was constantly working away. I didn't even know it. I met Milton 2 days before he got married. When I heard about it, I was very sad, but only for a few 5 minutes. Well, this is the part in where she became a model, and I'm gonna show you some pictures because I still have beautiful photographs. This book is amazing. So next time I'm gonna read a little bit more of this book, but let's go through little pieces, okay? I hope you like it, and sorry again for my mistakes. I'm learning and practicing, so you're giving me a huge help with that. Well, like I said before, this is Marilyn, of course, beautiful. And this is just the part that I read to you. And I wanted to share with you these beautiful photos of a very young Marilyn with long hair on her moments as a model. Look at her. So beautiful. This is with the famous Milton. And this is the last one until I read to you the next part, okay? So bye-bye.